The detective's hand froze above the evidence bag when the janitor quietly said, "You're looking at the wrong door." Everyone in the school hallway stared at the old man with the mop, the one they had mocked, ignored, and nearly arrested. How could a custodian know what trained officers missed? Why did he recognize a clue buried in a child's drawing? And why did the principal suddenly look afraid? By sunrise, a forgotten basement key, a cracked security camera, and one man's hidden past would turn the entire investigation upside down. Stay with this story, because the person everyone dismissed was the only one who saw the truth. The drop fell from Elias Reed's mop at 7:18 a.m. and struck the polished hallway like a tiny clock. Detective Bryce Hanlon held a clear evidence bag under the fluorescent lights. Inside lay a folded strip of yellow paper, damp at one edge, with Noah Pierce's name printed in block letters. Students watched from both walls, phones low. Elias kept both hands on the mop handle. "You're looking at the wrong door," he said. Principal Marcia Kell turned first, her cream jacket marked by a coffee-colored crescent near the cuff. "Mr. Reed, this is not your area." Hanlon sealed the bag with a sharp zip. "Custodial staff can wait." "No," Elias said. "Not if that came from the East office." The detective faced him. "You know because you put it there?" Noah, 15 and pale beneath his dark curls, pressed his back to the lockers as if metal could open and take him in. "I know because it's wet on the wrong side," Elias said. Marcia laughed softly. "He mops near doors all night, detective. Of course he has theories." "I have floors," Elias said. Hanlon stepped closer. "Then talk about floors." Cold air breathed from the service door behind him, carrying bleach and radiator dust. The East office door drips from the hinge side when it rains. That paper is wet on the folded edge. Behind the main office glass, Denise Pierce stood with both palms on the glass. Her lips formed her son's name, but no sound reached the hall. Elias lowered his eyes. His thumb touched the worn photograph in his shirt pocket. "Check the service door," he said. "We did," Hanlon replied. "No, you checked whether it was locked, not whether it was used." Officer Jenna Vale looked toward the door. Her hand moved toward her notebook. Marcia noticed. "Officer, don't encourage this. We have trustees arriving, and a frightened student who needs adults to behave like adults." Noah swallowed. "I didn't do anything." "Then stop talking," Hanlon said without turning. A boy near the trophy case lowered his phone. Another student stared at the floor. Elias drew the mop back, leaving a clean crescent around Hanlon's shoes. The scuff marks stop before the main threshold. They start again by the stairs. Hanlon looked down. 2 faint gray arcs curved toward the service stairwell. "That could be from anyone," Hanlon said. "It could." "Then we're done." "Not with the key." Marcia's smile disappeared. Hanlon caught it half a beat late. "What key?" "Old basement tag. Brass. Number 17 scratched out and stamped again." Near the janitor's closet, Vince Rowley shifted his boot back 1 inch. Marcia lifted her chin. "This is absurd." "Is it?" Officer Vale asked. Hanlon shot her a look. "Officer." Elias watched the folded edge darkening under the humming lights. "If that tag opened the old archive," he said, "then the boy never needed your office." Hanlon put the bag into his case. "Mr. Reed, 1 more word and I'll remove you for obstruction." The students had gone quiet. Elias looked at Noah's white knuckles around his backpack strap. Then he looked at Denise Pierce, whose palms had slid down and left 2 foggy marks. He said the word anyway. 17. Behind the service door, no one had opened. Something metallic touched the floor. At 9:43 p.m. the night before, Elias Reed shook rain from his gray coat outside Briar Glen Preparatory and waited for the side entrance buzzer. The building sounded different after dark. Pipes clicked in the walls. Vending machines hummed. Above the gym, an old vent rattled, stopped, then rattled again. "Forgot umbrella?" Caleb Doss called from the security desk. Elias stepped inside and wiped his shoes twice. Remembered it. Wind had other plans. Caleb, 57, broad-shouldered in a faded school fleece, slid the clipboard toward him. "Fall fundraiser left you a kingdom." "Then I'll rule with a mop." On one monitor, the old East Wing showed an empty hall washed in blue-gray light. The camera angle was wrong, aimed high enough to catch ceiling tiles and the top halves of lockers. Elias signed his name. "That one drifted again?" he asked. Caleb glanced at the screen. Maintenance said they'd check it. Vince? Who else? The lobby smelled of wet wool, floor wax, and frosting. Elias lifted a black trash bag from reception, tied it with a practiced pull, then paused when his fingers brushed the photo in his shirt pocket. The edges were soft from years of handling. A young woman in a red graduation robe smiled up from it. He pushed it back. Down the hall, Lena Morris came from the faculty lounge carrying 2 boxes of paper cups. 34, tired-eyed, with a pencil tucked into her curly hair, she nearly walked into him. "Oh, Elias, sorry." She shifted the boxes. "Big night." "Looks like it." They left cake in 3 rooms and glitter in all of them. Glitter doesn't negotiate. That earned a small laugh. Then her gaze moved to the East Wing door. "Did you hear anything near the old archive earlier?" "I just came in." "Right. I thought I heard someone before I left my classroom. Probably the radiator." "Radiators don't usually wear shoes." Her smile faded. "No, they don't." Vince Rowley rounded the corner with keys bouncing against his hip. 38, narrow-faced, hair-combed wet and sharp, he carried a tablet like it gave him rank. "Ms. Morris," he said, "teachers aren't supposed to be in the service corridor after hours." "I was leaving." "Good." Vince turned to Elias. "And custodians aren't supposed to entertain staff complaints." Elias took the trash bag and mop bucket. "Wasn't entertaining. Mostly listening." "Listen less." Vince tapped the tablet. "Kel wants the East office spotless by morning. No streaks on the glass, no fingerprints on the brass, no questions about locked rooms." Lena's fingers tightened around the boxes. Elias noticed. Vince noticed him noticing. "Something funny?" "No." "Then move." The bucket wheels squeaked as Elias rolled away. In the East office, the heat had been turned too high. Rain pressed itself in silver lines against the window, and under the office door, a thin thread of water curved inward from the hinge side. Elias set down a yellow caution sign. He knelt, touched the damp line with 2 fingers, and looked back. The service stairwell door stood 20 feet away. Its brass plate had one fresh scratch near the lock. He rose slowly. From somewhere below, a door closed. Not slammed, not careless. Closed by a hand, trying not to be heard. At 6:31 a.m., the front office printer began spitting out donor badges before anyone had turned on the lobby lights. Principal Marcia Kell stood beside it with a paper cup of coffee in one hand and her phone in the other. Her smile was already in place, the polished one she used for trustees, parents, and anyone who measured schools by plaques on walls. "Arthur Bell arrives at 8, she said. "No clutter on the reception desk, no staff wandering, no surprises." Ruth Phelps, the assistant principal, nodded while stacking folders. "Scholarship interviews start at 10. "Good. Those children should look grateful, not desperate." Ruth's hand paused over a blue folder. Noah Pierce is first. Marcia's smile thinned. Then make sure his mother signs in through the side office. The main lobby will be crowded. The coffee cup crumpled softly in her grip. A brown ring spread beneath the plastic lid. She did not look down. Across the hall, Elias Reed pushed his mop bucket into the shadow beside the trophy case. The floor smelled of lemon cleaner and cold rain. He had been working since before dawn, but the East office still sat in his mind like a door left open. Behind the glass wall, Ruth checked the file card again. Marcia. What? The Pierce folder isn't here. Marcia lowered her phone. Look again. I did. Then look correctly. Ruth opened drawers, then cabinets. Paper scraped against paper. Her breath grew louder in the small office. It was in the locked tray last night. I put it under Belle's review packet. Marcia stepped in, heels sharp on the tile. Who had access? Only administration. And cleaning. Elias kept the mop moving. Ruth looked toward the hallway and away again. At 6:47, Noah Pierce entered through the student doors with a backpack hanging from one shoulder. His jacket was too thin for the weather, and the cuffs of his white shirt were still damp from the walk. Denise Pierce came behind him, smoothing his collar with fingers that could not quite stop trembling. Mom, Noah whispered. Please. You get one scholarship interview, she said. Let me fix your collar. I'm not 6. No. She smiled without showing teeth. You're the reason I ironed at 5 in the morning. Elias saw Noah try not to smile. Marcia opened the office door. The warmth of the room spilled out with the smell of printer toner and coffee. Noah, she said, too brightly. Could we speak for a moment? Denise straightened. Is something wrong? We're clarifying a minor issue. Noah's shoulders pulled inward. What issue? The scholarship file is temporarily missing, Marcia said. And last evening you were seen near this office after a disagreement. I was outside the office because you told me to wait. After raising your voice, I asked why my community hours were marked incomplete. Ruth closed a drawer too hard. Marcia glanced toward the lobby, where 2 trustees were already stepping through the rain with leather portfolios. Arthur Bell, 66, silver-haired and careful with every movement, shook water from his umbrella at the threshold. Marcia's smile returned so fast it seemed attached by a string. Arthur, she called, welcome back. Then, under her breath to Noah, do not make this harder. Denise heard it. Her hand moved to her son's sleeve. Elias guided the mop bucket closer to the wall. A thin smell of metal came from the radiator. The wheels squeaked once. Arthur Bell entered the office area, eyes moving from Marcia's crushed cup to Noah's wet cuffs. Everything all right? Routine paperwork, Marcia said. A student matter. Noah lifted his chin. My file is gone. Marcia turned toward him. Noah. It has my recommendations, my essay, the income forms, everything. Denise's voice dropped. Principal Kell, without that folder, he cannot interview. We are not there yet, Marcia said. But Elias saw Ruth's face. They were already there. Vince Rowley appeared from the service corridor carrying a ring of keys and a tablet. His hair was damp at the temples, as if he had rushed in from the rain or from somewhere below ground. Problem? He asked. Marcia did not look at him. A file has been misplaced. Vince's eyes flicked to Noah. Misplaced. Noah's jaw tightened. I didn't touch it. No one said you did, Vince replied, too quickly. Elias stopped mopping. Marcia noticed. Mr. Reed, the hall is clean. Yes, ma'am. Then clean somewhere else. He tipped the mop into the bucket. Dirty water rolled off the strings, gray and quiet. As he turned, He saw a damp mark near the baseboard outside the east office. Not a footprint. A rectangle, about the size of a folder corner, where wet paper had touched tile and been lifted. Ruth stepped out with a clipboard pressed flat against her chest. "Marcia, should I call the police?" Denise's fingers tightened around Noah's sleeve. "Police? He's a child." "He is 15, Marcia said. "Old enough to understand locked offices." Noah stared at the floor. Arthur Bell removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly with a white cloth. No one spoke while he did it. Elias looked at the service stairwell. The brass plate still held the fresh scratch he had seen the night before. The printer behind Marcia started again, coughing out another perfect donor badge, as if nothing in the building had shifted. On the badge, in black letters, was the word "Welcome." At 7:06 a.m., the first police cruiser stopped by the flagpole, rain ticking on its roof. Detective Bryce Hanlon entered without removing his coat, square-shouldered and impatient. Officer Jenna Vale followed with a notebook open. Principal Kell met them at reception. "Thank you for coming quickly." Hanlon looked past her at Noah Pierce. "This the student?" Denise Pierce stepped in front of her son. "He has a name." "Noah Pierce," Jenna said. Marcia kept her voice smooth. His scholarship folder vanished from a locked tray. He was outside this office last night after an argument. "I didn't argue," Noah said. "I asked why my hours were marked incomplete." "Questions can sound different when people are upset," Hanlon said. Elias stood by the trophy case with his mop bucket. The hall smelled of wet coats, lemon wax, and bitter coffee. Trustees watched from behind the glass. Hanlon stepped into the east office. "Who had keys?" "Administration, security, maintenance, custodial access," Marcia said. Vince Rowley lifted his tablet. "Logs show the room opened after hours." "By who?" "Custodial entry at 9:58 p.m. Every face turned toward Elias. "I cleaned the office at 10:12, he said. "The system says 9:58, Vince replied. "The system is wrong." Hanlon laughed once. "Convenient. The wax was drying then. I was clearing broken glass in the science wing." Caleb called from security. "I logged that." Marcia turned. "Caleb, don't speculate. It's in the notes. Hanlon did not ask to see them." "Forced entry?" "No," Vince said. "Then someone with access took it." Denise's voice thinned. "My son does not have access." "He has motive." Noah stared at him. "For what? To lose the only chance I have?" A girl near the lockers lowered her backpack zipper one tooth at a time. Elias rolled the bucket toward the service stairwell. "Detective?" "Not now." "The marks don't lead to the student doors." "I said not now." "They curve here." Elias pointed the mop handle at two pale gray arcs. "Adult soul. Office to stairwell." Vince's keys clicked once. Hanlon stood. "You track every shoe in this school?" "I track what gets left behind." Marcia stepped between them. "Mr. Reed means well, but he is not trained for investigations." Elias's thumb brushed the photo inside his pocket. Hanlon's face hardened. "Are you a witness, a suspect, or a janitor with a hobby?" The words hung there. "I'm the man who cleaned the floor," Elias said. "Then clean it somewhere else." Jenna's pen hovered. "Detective, the stairwell could be relevant." "When I need help prioritizing, officer, I'll ask." Noah whispered. "Please check it." Marcia snapped. "Noah." Elias lifted the bucket handle and let the wheels roll back 6 inches. A small triangle of damp grit appeared near the stairwell hinge, dark like soil from below the building. Hanlon saw it. So did Jenna. Vince stepped forward too quickly. "Old dirt. That stairwell's a mess." Elias looked at him. "I cleaned it last night." Vince's mouth opened, then closed. Marcia clapped once. "Detective, the panel is waiting." Hanlon turned to Noah. "Empty your backpack." Denise gripped the strap. "Not without someone from the district. He can cooperate here, or we continue downtown." Noah put the backpack on the floor. His fingers struggled with the zipper until Elias slid the mop handle against the wall, making everyone look at him instead. "Before you search that bag," Elias said, "ask why the camera above you is pointed at the ceiling." Hanlon looked up. The black camera dome reflected the hallway in a warped circle. It watched nothing but lights. At 7:22 a.m., while Hanlon stared at the blind camera, a small hand tugged the hem of Elias's gray work shirt. Maisie Lynn stood beside the mop bucket in a yellow raincoat, hood still up indoors. 8 years old, front tooth missing, one sleeve stained with blue crayon. She held a drawing against her chest. "Mr. Reed," she whispered, "I drew the hallway." Elias crouched. "For art class?" "For remembering." Behind them, Hanlon ordered Noah to keep his backpack open. Denise Pierce asked for a district representative. Ruth Phelps hurried toward the phone, and Marcia Kell smiled at Arthur Bell. "What did you remember?" Elias asked. Maisie turned the paper around. Crayon lockers. A long brown door. A black shape with no face. Above the handle, a little square sign sat crooked, crossed by one heavy blue line. The wax had nearly torn through. "Where?" "By the old wing, last night, after choir." Lena Morris came from classroom 2B, pencil still in her hair. "Maisie, honey, I told you to wait inside." "She needs to tell someone," Elias said. Lena saw the drawing and stopped. Hanlon heard that. "Who is this?" "A student," Marcia answered. "She gets nervous during assemblies." Maisie stepped closer. "I'm not nervous. The man had keys." Vince Rowley laughed. "Half the adults here have keys." "Not like that," Maisie said. Jenna Vale bent slightly. "How were they different?" The girl looked at Jenna's badge. "They sounded like a dog collar." Elias glanced toward Vince's belt. His keyring hung flat, trapped under his tablet arm. Marcia moved in, palm open. "Maisie, give me the picture." Lena's fingers closed on the top edge first. "Maybe Officer Vale should see it." "This is not evidence," Marcia said. "It has the storage plaque," Elias said. Hanlon frowned. "What plaque?" "Old archive door. Bottom stair. The nameplate is cracked through the middle. See that blue line?" Maisie nodded. It looked like lightning. Jenna wrote it down. Marcia's voice sharpened. "Officer Vale, we are not basing police work on crayons." "No," Jenna said, "but we can look at the door." Hanlon closed Noah's backpack, annoyed to have found only books and a cracked calculator. "We'll decide that." Arthur Bell stepped nearer. "If another location is involved, why not check it?" "Because this is how rumors start," Marcia said, "and because frightening her is irresponsible." Blue crayon had rubbed onto Elias's thumb. Maisie pointed at it. "You got the lightning," she whispered. For 1 second the hall narrowed to that bright smear. Elias stood. "Detective, if the child saw the archive door last night, somebody opened the stairwell after choir." Vince's keys clicked again. Hanlon turned. "Why do those keep making noise?" Vince shrugged. "Because keys do that." Marcia took the drawing from Lena and folded it once. Maisie made a small sound, just air leaving too fast. "Mrs. Phelps," Marcia said, "return Maisie to class." Elias's hand lifted, then stopped. "Keep the crayons out," he told Maisie. "Some things are easier to remember in color." As Ruth led the girl away, the folded paper disappeared beneath Marcia's clipboard, but the broken blue line remained on Elias's thumb, bright as a clue no one had managed to erase. At 7:36 a.m., the red light above the east wing camera blinked once, then went dark. Elias noticed before anyone else. He had spent 12 years learning which parts of the building lied. Pipes knocked when heat was trapped. Doors sighed when wind moved under them. Cameras made a soft tick when they shifted from live feed to idle. That one had gone quiet. Caleb Doss stood behind the security desk. It did that last night. Jenna Vale looked up. The camera? Caleb nodded at the monitor. It showed lockers and a slice of ceiling. 7 minutes, from 9:54 to 10:01. Then it came back wrong. Hanlon, holding Noah's backpack, sighed. Why am I hearing this now? Because I put it in the log, Caleb said. Vince stepped around the desk. You put a note. Camera drift. Happens. Not with the feed missing. It buffered. No, Vince. It went black. Rainwater dripped from umbrellas in the lobby, tapping the stand. Elias smelled radiator dust and sour mop water. Jenna turned to Caleb. Can you pull the log? I can. Marcia hurried closer. Detective, we are turning theft into a circus. Noah's mother tightened her coat. You called police on my son. That was not simple. Caleb typed. The computer fan whined. A list of entries filled the screen. Then one line flashed gray. Camera I3 signal loss, 21:54:12 to 22:01:09. Jenna leaned closer. Almost exactly 7 minutes. Elias said, enough time to leave the office, take the service stairs, and reach the archive. Hanlon looked at him. You timed that too. I clean both ends. Vince reached across Caleb for the mouse. Let me... Caleb caught his wrist. Not hard. Just enough. For the first time that morning, Vince looked smaller. Don't touch my desk, Caleb said. Even the students by the lockers stopped whispering. Hanlon set the backpack on a chair. Who can change that log? Caleb looked at Vince. Vince laughed, but there was no shape to it. Security, administration, maintenance. That proves nothing. It proves someone knew where not to be seen, Elias said. Vince turned on him. You've pushed a mop so long you think every streak is a conspiracy. Elias dipped the mop into the bucket. The gray water swallowed the strings, then released them with a wet twist. No, he said. Clean floors show what people carry. Jenna wrote that down. Hanlon noticed, and she closed the notebook. Marcia stepped closer. Her perfume cut through wax. Mr. Reed, your shift ended at 6. Go home. My shift ends when the hall is safe. This is a school, not your private case. The word case landed too neatly. Elias looked at her. I didn't call it that. A flicker crossed her eyes and vanished. Lena stood at her classroom door, keeping the children back, one hand marked with blue crayon. Arthur Bell cleared his throat. Detective, check the stairwell before any student is removed. Hanlon's jaw worked. Vince backed toward the service corridor. His keys tapped against his hip. Quick, nervous, uneven. Mr. Rowley, Jenna said, please stay here. Vince stopped. The monitor blinked again. The feed returned for less than a second, showing the old archive door below ground. Across the bottom, someone typed a new label over the timestamp. Maintenance test. At 7:49 a.m., Hanlon opened Noah Pierce's locker, and the sound carried farther than the morning bell. Students lined the classroom doors, pretending not to watch. A phone glowed beside the trophy case until a teacher lowered it with 2 fingers. Noah stood between his mother and Officer Vale. His backpack sat behind him, searched. Top shelf, Hanlon said. Noah blinked. There's only my lunch. Then empty it. Denise stepped forward. Detective, he let you search his bag. and now I'm searching the locker. Marcia Kell folded her arms near the office glass. Cooperation will help everyone. Elias stood by the mop bucket, smelling cold locker metal and peanut butter from Noah's paper sack. Vince Rowley watched from the service corridor. Noah reached past a math book. Then his hand stopped. "What is it?" Denise whispered. Noah pulled out a manila envelope bent down the middle. His name was written across it. A torn corner of blue scholarship paper showed through the flap. "I've never seen this," he said. Hanlon took it with gloved hands. "Step back." "No, I didn't put that there." The first phone rose near the water fountain. Then another. Tiny screens caught the envelope, sealed in plastic. "Students, put those away," Marcia said. No one moved fast enough. Noah's voice broke. "Somebody put it there." Hanlon pulled a strip from the envelope. "Part of the missing folder." Denise gripped her son's sleeve. "He was with me." Marcia answered before Hanlon could ask. "He waited outside my office alone before that." Elias looked at the locker door. The vent slits held gray dust, except around the bottom edge, where something had wiped it clean. "Detective," he said. Hanlon did not turn. No. The locker wasn't opened from the front. Not another floor theory. The dust is broken from inside the gap. Someone slid it through from the service panel behind the lockers. Vince barked. "There is no service panel." "There is," Elias said. Jenna's eyes moved to the wall. Marcia stepped between them. "Detective, remove the student." Noah reached for his backpack strap, though the backpack was not on him. "Mom," he said, "I'm here." Hanlon opened his cuffs. "Noah Pierce, you're coming with us for questioning." Denise's face drained. "He is a minor. You can come to the station." The handcuffs clicked open. The sound cut through the hallway bell. Lena Morris stepped forward, then stopped. Elias moved before he decided to. "Check the key." Hanlon turned. "What?" "The service panel key. It is not issued to students." Vince's hand fell from his belt. "Mr. Reed," Marcia said, "you are interfering." "I am naming a door." Hanlon lifted the cuffs. "One more sentence, and I remove you too." Noah looked at Elias, not pleading, just trying to stand upright while everyone watched him shrink. "Panel B," Elias said, "behind lockers 12 through 16. Jenna turned toward the wall. Hanlon caught her movement. "Officer Vale, stay where you are." The cuffs closed around Noah's wrists. Metal covered the last note of the bell. Denise pressed both hands to her mouth. Near locker 14, a fresh flake of beige paint lay beside the baseboard, still curled from whatever had opened behind it. The security room door closed at 8:03 a.m. with a click that sounded worse than a slam. Elias stood beside the broken chair before he sat. The room was hardly larger than a supply closet. 4 monitors, a dented cabinet, a heater pushing out air that smelled of dust. Through the narrow glass pane, he saw teachers moving children away and lockers shutting. Beyond the lobby, Noah Pierce was being led toward a cruiser with his mother beside him. Hanlon had not called it detention. He had said, "Wait here until I decide what to do with you." The chair creaked under Elias's weight. His knee throbbed from the cold. On the center monitor, the East Wing feed showed ceiling lights, locker tops, and a blank strip of wall. "Still watching the wrong thing," he murmured. The door opened 3 inches. Caleb Doss looked in. "I'm sorry," Caleb said. "You didn't lock it?" "I didn't stop it." Elias turned his hand over. The old brass tag lay in his palm, caught on a broken ring. Number 17 had been scratched out, then stamped again. A red line crossed his skin. Caleb stared. Where did you get that? Under the mop sink. That opens the basement. It used to. Caleb glanced behind him. Noah's mother is asking for a lawyer. Kel's telling the trustees it's a sad student matter. And Vince? Gone to maintenance. No, he hasn't. Caleb swallowed. I can pull the backup server, but Vince changed the admin code. Then don't pull it. What do I do? Remember exactly who told you it was changed. The fluorescent tube flickered. I should have said more last night, Caleb said. Elias touched the photograph in his pocket. So should a lot of people. After Caleb left, Rain tapped the high window. The heater clicked, failed, clicked again. Elias drew out the photo. Mara smiled in a red graduation robe. 22 forever in that small rectangle. He had missed 3 calls from her years ago because a supervisor wanted one more interview, one more signature, one more clean ending. By the time he listened, there was only her voice trying to sound brave. He pressed the photo against his knee until his fingers stopped moving. A shape slid across the monitor. Not in the hallway, in the reflection. Someone passed the security room door, carrying a gray maintenance jacket. Keys brushed softly, quick and uneven. Elias watched the reflection cross the black edge of the dead monitor and vanish toward the service stairs. He waited 3 breaths. Then he reached under the desk, where the cleaning schedule was taped. Behind one loose corner was an old intercom switch no one used because the button stuck unless pressed from the left side. Elias pressed it. Static breathed through the speaker. At the far end of the hall, Vince Rowley's voice came over the maintenance channel. Archive is still locked, Vince whispered, but the old man mentioned 17. Another voice answered, lower, careful, familiar enough to make Elias close his eyes. Then make sure 17 is gone. The line clicked dead. Elias looked at the red mark in his palm, then at Mara's photograph. For the first time that morning, he could not slide the picture back into his pocket. Outside the security room, the service stairwell door opened. At 8:11 a.m., Officer Jenna Vale stopped outside the security room and listened to the stairwell door settle. The hallway had emptied in layers. Students, teachers, then trustees guided into the conference room with careful smiles. What remained was rain ticking against glass and the buzz of lights above lockers. Jenna looked through the narrow pane. Elias Reed sat with one hand closed around something metal. The monitors washed his face blue. He did not look like a man waiting to be dismissed. He looked like a man counting exits. She opened the door. Mr. Reed. He slipped the brass tag into his pocket. Officer? Hanlon said you're to stay here. Then you should close the door. Instead, she stepped inside. Old coffee sat on Caleb's desk, cold and dark. The room was warm enough to make her collar itch. Why did you say 17? Elias studied her. Because someone didn't want me to. That's not an answer. It keeps you from writing down the wrong thing too early. Jenna's pen was in hand. She capped it. On the center monitor, the East Wing camera blinked and returned to the ceiling. Jenna lowered her voice. I checked your name. Elias did not move. Your school file says custodian, county employment, widow, no active certifications. Sounds complete. It isn't. She held up her phone. There's a sealed federal reference attached to Elias J. Reed. Juvenile investigations. Behavioral analysis. It won't open from my system. The heater clicked off. The quiet made the room smaller. Elias looked at the photograph on his knee. Who did you call? My academy instructor, Milton Gray. For the first time, his fingers tightened. He said you taught him how to read a room before touching evidence. If you tell people to check a door, someone should check the door. Elias closed his eyes once. Milton talks too much. He said you left after a case in Harrisburg. That part is not for this building. Maybe it is if a boy is being blamed. Outside, metal wheels rattled over tile, then faded. Jenna took a breath. Hanlon is processing Noah as if the envelope settles it. Kel says the school cooperated fully. Vince is missing. And you knew about a basement key that is not in inventory. Elias stood slowly. His knee complained. He ignored it. Show me your notebook. She held it out. He pointed without taking it. Did you write Maisie's drawing? Yes. Camera outage? Yes. Panel behind lockers 12 through 16? She looked down. Yes. Then you have enough to slow him down. Not enough to make him listen. Elias nodded toward the door. You don't make Hanlon listen. Make the hallway too loud for him not to hear. Jenna's radio cracked. Hanlon's voice cut through static. Vale, where are you? Security room. With Reed? Yes. A pause. Bring him to the office. Now. Elias picked up the mop handle, then set it back down. Jenna saw the choice. He reached for the photograph and slid it into his shirt pocket. In the doorway, she stopped. Before we go in there, were you really federal? He looked toward the service stairs. I was a man who noticed children when adults stopped listening, he said. Jenna opened her notebook again. This time, she wrote every word. At 8:19 a.m., Jenna Vale walked Elias Reed past the main office without stopping. Hanlon saw them through the glass. Vale. She kept moving. 5 minutes. That wasn't a request. No, Jenna said. It was a record issue. Elias skimmed the wall as they entered the old library. Not for balance, but because he knew where the floor dipped. Textbooks leaned under plastic. Dust smelled of paper. Jenna shut the door. If he follows us, he'll ask why you're in a room with no witnesses. Then we hurry. Beneath the circulation desk, an old server cabinet hummed behind a grate. One green light blinked. You knew this was here? I empty the trash. That's not an answer. It is if you notice where people hide things. Jenna pulled out Caleb's keyring. Elias tried 3 keys. The 4th caught, stuck, then turned. The desk computer woke slowly. A gray login box filled the screen. Caleb said Vince changed the admin code. He changed the door, not the window. Elias peeled tape under the drawer and removed a yellowing access card. Jenna stared. You memorized that? No. I dusted around it for 12 years. Her radio hissed. Hanlon again. Vale, answer. She lowered the volume. The login accepted on the second try. A folder tree opened. CAM_backup, archive_sync, E-. Wing_3. The server fan rattled until a plastic sheet on a cart trembled. Jenna clicked the file marked October 17th, 2024. _2, 154. The east hallway appeared, empty except for rain shadows across windows. Then the image went black. Corrupted, Jenna said. Not all of it. Elias pointed to the progress bar. 7 minutes of darkness. At the end, one frame flashed before the camera returned at the wrong angle. He stopped it. A figure stood near the service stairwell, half turned away. No face. Gray jacket. One shoulder higher than the other. A key ring hung low, pulled by a brass tag. Jenna zoomed in until the image broke into squares. Can't prove identity. Not with the face. She played the final 3 seconds. The figure stepped back, heel first, avoiding the wet line from the east office door. Jenna whispered. He knew the floor was wet. He knew the camera would miss him. The door handle moved. Jenna grabbed the mouse. Elias closed the file and opened archive_sync. Hanlon's voice came from the hall. "Vale," she called. "1 minute." The handle stopped. A sync log filled the screen. At 10 p.m., a file had been copied from camera E-3 to a maintenance account. At 10:02, a label had been added, "Maintenance Test." Jenna photographed the screen. "Who owns the account?" Elias pointed to the user line. "Vrowley_maint." The library door opened. Hanlon stood there with Marcia Kell behind him. Vince hovered back, tablet to his chest. "What are you doing?" Hanlon demanded. Jenna turned the monitor. "Preserving evidence." Marcia's mouth tightened. "That server is obsolete." "Then why did someone use it last night?" Jenna asked. Vince swallowed. Elias heard it under the fan. Hanlon stepped closer. "Play it." Jenna clicked. The gray figure appeared again. The brass tag swung once. Elias watched Marcia, not the screen. Her eyes did not move to Vince. They moved to the old archive door on the map beside the monitor. The basement smelled of wet cardboard and boiler dust. 8:27 a.m., Elias led the way down the service stairs with Jenna behind him, Hanlon close enough that his coat brushed the railing. Marcia followed last, heels slowing. Vince had been ordered to wait upstairs, but Elias heard his keys fade. "Archive B is not a crime scene," Marcia said. "Then it won't mind us looking," Jenna answered. Hanlon's flashlight cut across concrete walls painted the color of old milk. At the bottom, the archive door sat under a cracked plaque. Maisie's blue line had not exaggerated it. The crack split storage like lightning. Elias stopped 3 feet from the threshold. Hanlon frowned. "What now?" "Floor first." He bent slowly. His knee trembled before he steadied himself on the mop handle. The concrete carried 3 marks: rain grit, a clean half-moon where something had been wiped, and 1 dark oval near the hinge. "Noah wears sneakers with a broken left heel," Elias said. "These are work boots." "A lot of people wear work boots." "Yes," Jenna crouched, "but not students." Marcia folded her arms. "This is theatrical." Elias looked at the lock. "Who has the key?" Hanlon held out his hand. "Mrs. Kell?" "The archive keys are controlled by facilities." "Meaning Vince," Jenna said. Marcia's lips parted, then closed. Elias took the brass tag from his pocket. The red mark in his palm had deepened. He fitted the old key into the lock. It resisted, then turned with a dry scrape. Hanlon's face changed. "You kept school property?" Marcia said. "I found abandoned property." The door opened on stale, cold air. Shelves rose in crooked rows. Boxes bore dates from hearings and donor events. A single bulb flickered above the aisle. Jenna covered her nose. "What's that smell?" "Damp paper. Fresh adhesive." He moved to the 3rd shelf from the back. Dust lay thick on the metal lip except for 1 rectangle wiped clean by recent hands. "Photograph it." Jenna took pictures. Hanlon exhaled. "You're giving orders now?" "No, I'm trying to keep you from making the same mistake twice." The words landed harder below ground. Elias slid 1 box forward. Behind it, wrapped in a black trash liner, sat the missing half of Noah's scholarship folder and a flash drive taped beneath a ledger. Jenna whispered, "Found it." Marcia stepped back. Cardboard scraped against her jacket. Hanlon reached for the folder. Elias stopped him with 2 fingers. "Gloves." Hanlon pulled back, then put them on. The folder held recommendation letters, income forms, and a printed email chain marked Draft Reconciliation. Jenna opened 1 page, and her eyes moved faster. "These aren't Noah's documents," she said. "These are financial reports." Marcia's voice came thin. I don't know how those got there. No one said you did, Elias said. She looked at him then, really looked. From upstairs, a door slammed. Everyone looked up. A second later, Caleb's voice cracked from Hanlon's radio. Vince is not where you left him. Hanlon turned toward Marcia. Where would he go? Elias lifted the flash drive by the edge of its tape. Gray dust fell from it like ash. To remove what matches this, he said. Behind the far shelf, something clicked shut inside the wall. By 9:02, the conference room had lost its warmth. Trustees sat with coffee cooling in cups. Noah Pierce sat between his mother and Lena Morris, shoulders folded inward, the cuffs gone but red marks visible. Across from him, Principal Marcia Kell kept both hands flat beside a folder. Inspector Dana Whitcomb entered. 46, silver-streaked hair pinned tight, coat wet at the hem. She carried a recorder, and no smile. Start at the beginning, she said. Hanlon cleared his throat. We recovered scholarship materials in Archive B with unrelated financial files. Unrelated? Jenna Vale set her phone on the table. They were behind the same shelf. Officer Vale is making assumptions beyond her rank, Marcia said. Donna looked at Jenna. Evidence first. Rank later. Elias stood near the wall. He placed Maisie's drawing beside the flash drive. Marcia's pen rolled from between her fingers and dropped near Noah's shoe. Noah looked down at it and did not pick it up. Dana noticed. Mr. Reed, why does a child's drawing matter? Elias touched the sleeve. Because she drew a cracked plaque before anyone told her the archive was involved. That proves nothing, Marcia said. No, it proves someone was there. Jenna connected her laptop. Footage filled the wall. Black hallway, 7 missing minutes, then a gray figure with a swinging brass tag. Dana leaned forward. Detective, did you view this before restraining the student? No. Did you request the backup server? No. Why not? Hanlon looked at Noah, then at the envelope. Materials were found in his locker. Elias said, not placed through the front. Jenna showed a hallway photo. Behind lockers 12 through 16, a narrow service panel sat open, paint flaked at its edge. Lena whispered, That's behind my classroom wall. Denise folded both hands around Noah's wrist. Dana turned to Marcia. Who can access that panel? Facilities. And administration, Jenna added, with the master key set. I do not carry facilities keys. Elias laid a photocopy on the table. But you signed a temporary issue request for key 17 last month. The room became so still, the air vent sounded loud. Arthur Bell put on his glasses. Marcia? It was for an inspection. The old wing? Dana asked. Moisture complaints. Then why wasn't the key returned? Marcia's thumb pressed into the table edge. Ask Vince Rowley. Hanlon's radio cracked. Rowley located by loading dock. Marcia exhaled too early. Dana heard it. Jenna played the maintenance recording. Static, then Vince's whisper. Archive is still locked, but the old man mentioned 17. Another voice followed. Then make sure 17 is gone. No one moved. Denise lifted her eyes from Noah's hands. That was you. Marcia stood. This is being taken out of context. Elias did not raise his voice. Context is the part you removed. Dana stopped the recorder, then started it again. Principal Kell, did you authorize alteration of a security log, removal of student scholarship materials, or placement of documents in Noah Pierce's locker? Marcia looked toward the glass wall, where students and teachers had gathered. For the first time that morning, her smile had nowhere to go. At 9:38 a.m., Noah Pierce held the restored scholarship folder with both hands, but he did not open it. The conference room had emptied in pieces. Trustees left first, whispering into phones. Marcia Kell had been escorted to her office with Inspector Whitcomb. Vince Rowley sat downstairs with an officer at the loading dock. What remained were coffee rings, a recorder, and the boy everyone had watched become a suspect. Denise touched the red marks on Noah's wrists. Does it hurt? No. She knew he was lying. So did Elias. Detective Hanlon stood near the window, badge clipped to his belt instead of held out like a shield. Rain slid down the glass. He had asked twice for a private word, and Noah had not answered. Elias picked up the folder and turned it so the label faced Noah. The corner was bent where the envelope had been forced into the locker. Denise smoothed it flat, slow and careful. "This belongs to you," Elias said. Noah looked at the name. "They already saw me in cuffs." Lena Morris covered her mouth, then lowered her hand. "They filmed it," Noah said. "Everybody saw. They'll say there had to be a reason." Jenna Vale closed her notebook. "The school will issue a correction." Noah gave a small laugh. "A correction doesn't walk down the hallway." No one answered. Elias sat across from him. "No, it doesn't." Hanlon moved at last. "Noah, I owe you." Denise turned. "You owe him more than a sentence." The detective accepted it. He unclipped his badge and placed it on the table. "You were right to ask for help," he said. "I treated speed like certainty. I treated your fear like guilt. That was my failure." Noah stared at the badge. "Would you have listened if Mr. Reed hadn't been here?" Hanlon's eyes flicked toward Elias. "Answer him," Denise said. Rain tapped once against the window. "No," Hanlon said. "Not soon enough." Arthur Bell returned to the doorway, umbrella folded under one arm. "The scholarship committee is reconvening at noon. Noah's interview will proceed if he wants it." Noah did not look up. "If I want it?" "Yes," Arthur said. "After this morning, the choice should be yours." Denise's hand tightened over the folder. Elias saw the habit in her fingers, holding broken things together until someone gave permission to set them down. Noah opened the folder. His essay lay on top. The first line said, "I learned to measure a building by who gets heard inside it." He shut it quickly. "I wrote that before today," he whispered. "I know," Elias said. Noah looked at him. "Why did you help me?" Elias touched the photo in his pocket, but did not take it out. "Because someone should have helped sooner." Lena wiped beneath one eye with the heel of her palm. Jenna looked toward the hallway, where students had gathered in a silent line beyond the glass. Noah stood. His knees shook once. Denise reached for him, then stopped when he picked up the folder himself. "Can I walk out first?" he asked. Arthur stepped aside. The hallway quieted when the door opened. Phones disappeared. A boy near the trophy case whispered, "Sorry," too softly for anyone but Noah to hear. Noah kept walking. Elias followed several steps behind, carrying nothing but the blue crayon drawing Maisie had left behind. By 11:14 a.m., the boardroom no longer belonged only to the people at the table. Teachers lined the back wall. Parents filled the doorway. 2 reporters waited beyond the glass, cameras lowered. Rain had stopped, leaving the windows streaked white. Arthur Bell cleared his throat. "Mr. Reed, the board would like to recognize—" "No," Elias said. Arthur blinked. "I'm sorry?" Elias stood beside the end chair, hands folded over a mop no one had told him where to put. "Not recognition." Marcia Kell's chair sat empty. Vince Rowley's keyring lay sealed in a bag. Inspector Dana Whitcomb leaned back. "Then what are you asking for?" Elias looked through the glass. Noah sat in the library with the folder on his knees. Maisie traced the blue line in a copy of her drawing. "Rules," Elias said. Arthur removed his glasses. "We have procedures. You had paper." "No student questioned without a guardian or advocate present," he said. "No evidence moved through a school office without a second signature outside administration. Security logs backed up off-site. Cameras checked monthly by someone outside facilities." "And staff observations," Elias continued. "Custodians, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, aides. If they see something, there must be a written path a supervisor cannot bury." A trustee in a Navy suit said, "We cannot rewrite policy in panic." Lena Morris stepped forward. "A child was almost taken apart because adults wanted a clean morning." Arthur breathed in slowly. "Emergency safeguards pending review." Elias nodded once. "Start there." By noon, the first motion passed. At 12:26, cameras were frozen from manual adjustment until inspected. At 12:31, the board created a protected form for staff. Caleb signed as the first witness. Hanlon approached Noah at the library door. "I'll file a correction today." Noah held the folder against his chest. "Will it say everyone watched?" Hanlon's mouth tightened. "It will say I moved too fast." "That's not the same." "No," Hanlon said. "It isn't." A reporter named Nora King, 41, with a green scarf and rain-speckled notebook, approached Elias. "People want to know who you were before Briar Glen. People should know what the school will be after today." "That sounds like a headline." "It sounds like work." She closed the notebook. "Fair." At 1:05 p.m., Arthur Bell fastened a temporary sign outside the east hallway. The wood smelled of fresh varnish. Black letters, still glossy, read, "Listen first." Near the old wing, a crew carried away the cracked plaque from Archive B. Maisie watched from behind Lena's hand. "Are they throwing away the lightning?" she asked. Elias held out the copy of her drawing. "No, they're keeping the part that told the truth." Arthur handed Elias the screwdriver. "Would you check if it's straight?" Elias touched the plaque. It was warm from Arthur's hand. Clean shoes squeaked on the floor. "It's straight enough," he said. Noah came from the library, holding his folder. He stopped under the sign. "Is that for me?" Elias slid the screwdriver into Arthur's palm. "For the next person," he said. Above them, the camera clicked, lowering its eye from the ceiling to the hallway, where people stood still long enough to see one another. 3 months later, at 5:42 p.m., the old East Wing no longer smelled like damp paper. Fresh paint covered the lower walls. The cameras sat level. A new archive lock required 2 signatures and made a soft chime each time it opened. Elias Reed heard it from the hallway while he wrung clean water from his mop. Noah Pierce came through the library doors wearing a navy blazer too large in the shoulders. The scholarship folder was under his arm, no longer bent, its label replaced by a printed one. "You're early," Elias said. "Noon committee ran short." "That sounds unlikely." Noah gave him half a smile. "They asked me to read the first line of my essay." "And?" "I changed it." Elias rested both hands on the mop handle. Noah opened the folder and read from the top page. "I learned to measure a building by who gets heard inside it, but I also learned buildings can change if someone refuses to walk past the door." He looked embarrassed after saying it. Elias spared him by turning toward the bucket. "Good line," he said. "It's yours, kind of." "No, you carried it out." Down the hall, Maisie Lynn stopped beneath the Listen First plaque. She had grown taller by maybe an inch, though her yellow raincoat still swallowed her hands. Lena Morris walked beside her with a stack of new observation forms clipped to a board. Maisie held up a drawing. This time, the old wing had windows full of yellow light. The cracked plaque was gone. A tiny figure with a mop stood by the door. "I fixed the lightning," she said. Elias took the paper carefully. "You didn't erase it." "No," Maisie said. "I made it a lamp." Lena looked at Elias over the child's head. The staff report box was used twice this week. Both times, someone followed up before lunch. That's how boxes should work. A door opened near the main office. Officer Jenna Vale entered in a plain coat, her hair damp from sleet. She carried a folder stamped Juvenile Services. "They approved the transfer," she said. Elias nodded. "You'll be good there." "I'll be slower there." "That's better." She laughed softly, then touched the edge of the Listen First sign. Hanlon started the witness training last month, voluntarily before Whitcomb ordered it. Noah turned his head. "Is he still a detective?" "Yes," Jenna said. "For now. Desk review, supervised cases, public correction on record. He asked me to tell you he read the report aloud at the first training." Noah looked down at his folder. "Good. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Just a place for the word to stand." Marcia Kell never returned to Briar Glen. Her resignation came after the district report, along with a ban from administrative posts involving student records. Vince Rowley accepted responsibility in writing after the security logs were restored. He lost his job, his keys, and the quiet protection of people who once found him useful. No one cheered when the announcements were made. The room had been too aware of how close a boy had come to losing his name. At 6:10, Arthur Bell brought Elias a sealed envelope. "The board voted unanimously," Arthur said. "Permanent oversight, outside camera audits, student advocate rule, protected staff observations, and your name on the policy draft, unless you object." Elias turned the envelope once. The paper felt thick, expensive. "Put Noah's name there, too." Arthur did not argue. He only took out a pen. When the building emptied, Elias returned to the east hallway alone. Rain had turned to thin snow beyond the windows. He reached into his pocket and took out Mara's photograph. The edges were still worn, but he had placed it in a clear sleeve the week after the hearing. He held it beneath the plaque for a moment. "I was late once," he said quietly. "Not this time." The hallway did not answer. It only held the soft hum of corrected lights, the clean smell of water, and the faint reflection of one old man in the bucket at his feet. Elias turned off the last switch. One lamp stayed on. If this story stayed with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever seen someone quiet, overlooked, or dismissed notice the truth before everyone in power did? Stories like this remind us that dignity is not measured by a job title, a uniform, or the loudest voice in the room. Share this story with someone who believes fairness matters, especially when the system moves too fast and someone vulnerable is almost left behind. Subscribe for more emotional stories about justice, quiet strength, second chances, and the kind of change that does not come from revenge, but from people finally choosing to listen.